training, so hopefully we'll get him up and running in just a couple of minutes. I want to remind you of a couple of things happening. First of all, since we're talking about the HWA, they have their main event pro wrestling showcase every Tuesday night. 7:30 is the bell time. $2 is the ticket price, but a very special event happening in a couple of weeks.
And that would be, that is when MT comes back to hold a reunion show. They are holding a reunion show with Rory Fox, Shark Boy, Tony Atlas, all the guys that you saw on the original True Life show. You want to be a pro wrestler, MTV back there. And so you actually can be on MTV.
All right, so we do have Les now, right?
You have him there, and you have the operator that looks at the
This is going to be good on the internet.
Listen.
Yes, I accept.
Yes, I accept.
Thank you.
Les, how are you?
Les, that was great.
How about you?
I'm doing just fine, you know. So don't let anybody ever say we are cheapskates. We're picking up the dime for this.
That's right.
I'm glad you guys found a new location with a high-dollar budget.
You know what, Les, remind me, if ever you say that you want to take me out to lunch,
right?
I have other plans.
For those of you that don't know, let me go ahead and give him the proper introduction. Les Thatcher has been in the wrestling business for around 40 years or so and has been featured in a number of publications, Men's Journal on 2020. He's recognized as one of the top trainers in the wrestling world, and he's the mastermind behind the Pillman event, also the Mark Curtis Fantasy Camp, and he joins us now. Les Thatcher, welcome to the Wrestling Guys.
Willie and Shawn, it's great to be with you on your initial show, and listen, I will pick up the tab for lunch.
Okay. No, Les, we have that on tape, so you can't get out of that.
That's right.
Okay.
That's going to be on the internet. I'm going to have Meltzer report that personally.
All right.
So let's talk a little bit about Pillman 2001. A lot of things are still being formed. But yesterday, a pretty big announcement with Booker T taking on Canyon on August 9th.
Absolutely, yeah. We're glad to get those guys. Of course, both former WCW stars, and Booker T, obviously the final world champion before WCW was shut down. In fact, won it on the last night in Panama City. And we're just tickled to death to have him on the Pillman show. And, of course, when you couple that with the main event, which is the return between Benoit and William Regal with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat as the referee. There's two top matches. Then we've got the Hardys with Lita against X Factor. And we've got more matches we haven't made yet, but names like Raven, Jerry Lynn. We're going to be in the house. Steve Corino's going to defend the NWA title. It'll be the first time at a Pillman event, and we're not sure who the opponent will be yet. But, you know, you guys have made all the shows. It's not your normal wrestling show.
No.
I mean, this thing starts with photos with the stars at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The first match goes in the ring at 5:30, and we're still there between 11 and 12 at night. Last year we had 16 matches, and of course the one Regal and Benoit was voted match of the year in many places, and figured in the top 10 of the year everywhere.
Now, one thing people were looking at going into this year's Pillman, with the WWF buying WCW and nobody really knowing what the future of that company is, some people thought, well, maybe, you know, with the lack of enough promotions coming in, one of the highlights of Pillman was always having WWF, WCW, ECW on one show, and that looked like it wasn't going to happen this year, but you've managed to fill in the gaps quite nicely.
Yeah, we've been lucky, you know. We had a lot of people. You know, I'll tell you the truth. I've pretty well got my talent in place for this thing. We haven't made all the announcements, but we've got a waiting list of almost 20 wrestlers that have called requesting spots on the Pillman show. That's how this thing is growing in its 4th year.
And how do you get around to actually choosing and actually saying, well, you know what, we don't need you?
They slip me money under the table.
Gotcha, all right. Well, that's pretty good.
But all that money goes to the Pillman Foundation, Les.
Yeah, there you go.
First.
That's right.
Absolutely. No, well, you know, actually, when we started out, we tried to get friends, you know, just friends of Brian. And the first year that was, you know, Jericho and Benoit, who had trained at the dungeon up at Hart's in Calgary, along with Brian. Steve Austin was in the house. He and Brian were the best of friends, you know, and guys who had known Brian had worked with Brian. And, of course, that's still the case. Benoit has been our centerpiece in the main event. This will be his 4th year. And Chris has just been a real angel with being cooperative and helping out with the show so much. But then we also try to book guys who would have the same wrestling qualities as Brian Pillman. You know, a lot of fire, a lot of great work ethic, a combination of mat and aerial performance, and I think we've pretty well, done that each and every year. So, and of course, a lot of the guys come back. Last year was Raven's first year. He and I have known each other a long time, but he said, well, you hadn't invited me before. I said, well, I didn't know you wanted to come. And then this year, the first time I saw him at a Raw several months back, he said, Les, am I going to be on the building? And I said, well, do you want to be? Yes. So, well, they're just there. So a lot of these guys, it's a time to, well, Shawn, you and Willie both have been in the dressing room. It's camaraderie.
Right, yeah.
It's tremendous, especially even, when there were 3 offices. The neat thing about that was that these guys were basically competing for one another, but the fans were the one that benefited because they just turned it up a notch. And I think the great thing about the Pillman matches, as everyone who's a big fan out there listening to your show for the first time must know, that on TV or a pay-per-view, that they, everything is structured time-wise. You're working within a storyline. And a lot of people come to me over the years and say, well, why are these such good matches at the Pillman? And I wish I had some hokey, magical thing to tell you, but actually all it is I go up to the competitors and say, okay, guys, just have a great match. Do what you want to do. And, of course, this may be the only time during the year that they're going to hear that out of a promoter. So they take advantage of it. The first year, as you know, we had Benoit against Jericho, and they came to me early in the day and said, well, do you want a hardcore match? You want a Japanese style? You want the lucha? What exactly do you want? I said, man, you guys have got the top spot simply because I know you're both great performers. Do what you enjoy, because looking back over my almost 41 years in the business, the best matches I ever had were the ones I had fun at. So that's all. I just go out there and have a good time. And, of course, these guys have been doing it up now for 4 years.
We're talking with Les Thatcher on the Wrestling Guys on AM 910 WPFB. Part of that, too, Les, I think, is the guys don't want to be shown up by somebody else. You watch them peeking out through the curtain, watching maybe what Vampiro and Hugh Morris did last year, and you can see Justin Credible and Raven from last year going, okay, that's what they're doing. We've got to do one better.
Absolutely. Well, Justin and Raven followed Benoit and Regal last year.
Right.
And I went down to the dressing room to congratulate him on a good match. And the first thing Scott or Raven said to me was, Les, I'm sorry. I said, well, for what? What are you sorry for? We didn't blow the roof off the place, and we really tried. I said, man, you guys just had a tremendous match. But, of course, look what you just followed, which just blew the place away. And I think, over the years, if any of the fans listening have not been to a Pillman show, there's always been some little aside that just made it stand out. The first year, of course, we had such a steady rainfall, and they were lined up around the building. This was at Norwood Middle School field house. They were people standing in the rain, lined around the building to do photographs with Steve Austin and Sonny and Benoit, Jericho, Al Snow, and stars like that. And, of course, it was the first show, and Steve did a very emotional opening. And Al Snow and Candido probably had one of the best matches either man has ever had in his life. And then, of course, in '99 was Mark Curtis coming back from his second cancer operation. And bless his heart, it was down to like 15 pounds. We were just going to have him referee the Legends match, which was Terry Taylor and Dr. Tom Pritchard, because it was more slower paced. And I was ready to introduce the main event, which was Benoit and Malenko against Conan and Rey Mysterio Jr. And here comes Mark Curtis to be the referee. So, I said, are you going to make it through this thing? He said, well, if I don't, you'll have to carry me back to the back. And I said, well, brother, I'll do that. And of course, last year, Steve Regal, just, a year out of rehab, had been working in the developmental territory in Memphis for WWF, had been off TV. So there was no big build-up for this main event. A lot of people, as you know, Shawn, wondered why we put these two guys together. Right?
You always like to bring that up to me, don't you?
Yes, because you were one of those guys.
I was one of those guys. Well, when you looked at that situation, and like you said, Regal hadn't been on TV, and the last images we had of Regal were really him out of shape, not really ready to compete, and for him to be in the main event like that, it was really that match last year where he said, you know what, I've got to go out there and prove to everybody that I can perform at the highest level, and that's what he did last year.
Yes, and I think all of the organizers of the event, the people behind the scenes are proud to say, that at this show, his career basically turned around, and look where he's at now.
Absolutely.
And what I've said to different guys, top 10 or no, This match has been lumped in with, say, 9 other matches in the top 10 for the year 2000. Those 9 other matches were major pay-per-views, had months of TV to hype them, millions of dollars in advertising, and this was a small show of over 2,000 fans. And when William Regal went to the ring, the fans were, very blasé about it. And 20-some minutes later, that entire building was on its feet chanting his name. And I said, for that alone, I think these two guys deserve Match of the year 2000.
Les, we've got to get to a break. Can you hang in line for a little bit longer?
I sure would love to.
All right, we're the Wrestling Guys. We're talking with Les Thatcher, and you're listening to the station that's a part of your life.
On 910 WPFB.
WA main event pro wrestling camp down in Cincinnati. How's training going tonight, Les?
Going good. So they're just getting warmed up, waiting for the old man. I want somebody to say computer tutor for me 10 times.
Willie, that's your job, computer tutor.
I think you're sitting behind the board.
All right, and that's part of the problem tonight. Hey, Les, one thing we want to talk about also is last year, in addition to LaPillman, you started the Mark Curtis Fantasy Camp as a fundraiser for the Curtis family to help out with their enormous medical bills. You're going to do it again this year, and this is really an all-star lineup you've got again for the Curtis Fantasy Camp.
Absolutely, and it's not completed yet. The Fantasy Camp takes place on Wednesday, spit it out, Les, August the 8th, here at our building in Woodlawn down in the suburb of Cincinnati. And the camp starts at 11 a.m. We'll run till 6. The participants in terms of the VIP trainers this year so far, Dr. Tom Pritchard, who is the head trainer for WWF, and if those fans don't know, was one of the Heavenly Bodies tag team, one of the top tag teams in the WWF, and also Terry Taylor, another legend, former NWA North American champion, and the guy you may have heard of before, Chris Benoit, is going to be in the house, along with Jerry Lynn and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And yours truly, of course, will be on the scene. And we're waiting to hear from a couple other guys. I won't mention names that way. If they don't show up, no one will be any the wiser. But
if we mention them now, maybe we put the pressure on them to show up.
There you go. Yeah, a couple other big stars, though. Last year, Dean Malenko was with us, Eddie Guerrero, Shane Douglas, and D'Lo Brown. So, yeah, we will have at least 10 celebrity trainers in the house. And, of course, the fans that get involved in this, they get a group picture with the trainers. They get to do a videotape, which they get to take home with them. They can cut a promo on their favorite wrestler or interview them, whatever they want to do. And also an event T-shirt. We serve lunch. We have a banquet at the end of the day. And, of course, you get in the ring and tug around with your favorite wrestler. I think one of the neat things last year, and for what already we've got 2 young ladies signed up for this year. And the one was with us last year at the inaugural. She came all the way from Oklahoma, and she asked for the fantasy camp and the Pillman show as her high school graduation. And you haven't lived, you've seen this little girl at about 5'3", about 110 pounds, go collar and elbow with Hugh Morris. In fact, Benoit went up to her at the end of the session and said, "You have a lot of courage." He said, "You got a lot of heart. You were in there." And she was bumping around with the guys and everything. And we actually try, it's a fun day. We don't expect the people to come, to turn into professional wrestlers by the end of the day. But we do try to teach them fundamental bumps, headlock takeover, flying mare taking and giving, hip locks, things like that. We had a young man come all the way from England last year. And Tommy Pritchard had him where he could run a little series of moves by 6 o'clock in the evening.
Of course, he's ready then to go into the main event of your place, right?
There you go.
No, I was going to say probably a lot of people who go down there would think that they're able to open their own school up after that point.
Yeah, exactly.
They are, yeah.
Hey, one other thing about the Mark Curtis Fantasy Camp, you're also going to be auctioning off an autographed NWA title belt over on eBay.
Yes, exactly. Young man Bill Casiaba, who comes up for the show every year from Florida, has purchased a replica of the old NWA World Title Belt, the one that was initiated with the Harley Race Jack Briscoe switch in '73, I believe it was. And he was out at Cauliflower Alley, which is a club for old boxers and wrestlers, and had a multitude of the retired legends, Killer Kowalski, Red Bastien, Roddy Piper, to name a few. Nick Bockwinkel, I believe, Penny Banner, Ida Mae Martinez, all signed this belt. And now it is being auctioned on eBay. It goes on eBay, I believe, June the 15th. And then Bill, who goes to the highest bidder, obviously, the bidder has two options. He can have the belt shipped to him immediately once he is designated the highest bidder, or he can wait until after the Pillman. Bill's going to bring the belt with him this year if they want to do that, and add the names of all the wrestlers on the Pillman show.
So like Chris Benoit, Ricky Steamboat, Terry Taylor, all of those.
Absolutely. And what I forgot to mention as well, guys, is if you come to the fantasy camp on the 8th, it is $550 for the day. You get all the things we told you, plus you get a reserved Pillman seat for the next day.
Which is normally $20 or $30 anyway, so
exactly.
It's a pretty good deal when you're talking about that. One way, for people that really haven't seen you before, they think, I've heard of the guy, but I know the voice. You were featured on a documentary about a year and a half ago that ran on MTV about 792 times called True...
No, wait, 793.
I'm sorry, I missed that 2 a.m. showing on Friday night.
That's right.
But
it really never goes to bed.
Never. But anyway, the documentary was called True Life, I'm a Professional Wrestler, and it chronicled really 3 stages of a wrestler's career. Right now, somebody at their peak like Triple H, then also the young up-and-comers, which featured Rory Fox and yourself training these guys, and then also Tony Atlas, who admittedly is at towards the end of his career, and they're coming back to do a reunion with you for this.
They absolutely are. They'll be in the week of the 25th of this month, as a matter of fact, and toward that end, we want to mention that we run a little show here at the Main Event Training Center every Tuesday night beginning at 7:30, and it's just basically a $2 cover charge, to help us pay for the air conditioning in the summer and the heat in the winter. Donation is more to the point. Anyway, we can seat around 75, 80 people here, and it's the trainees plus some of our top guys like Ray Steele, Matt Stryker are on the show as well. But on the 26th, Rory Fox is coming back. Rapid Delivery's coming back. Tony Atlas will be with us. Shark Boy will be here. They were all on the MTV special. And, they're going to update us and see what everybody's been doing in the last year and a half, where they're at now. And we may have a few other surprises. I think we've got a young man out of Jersey Championship Wrestling, their lightweight champion named Judas Young, is coming in to train with me for a week, and he'll probably be on the show as well. So we'd like to obviously invite your listeners, to give us a shout down here at 513-771-1650. They need directions to find us. And come on down to Tuesday night shows if you're a wrestling fan. I think both of you guys, you were down last night.
Yep.
Some great young talent, and I think they'll see some good matches.
Willie, I didn't see you there. Where were you? You missed on the other side.
I was on the other side,
okay,
yeah. I was right next to the concession stand.
Gotcha.
And the girls.
That's right, yeah, that's right.
Les, real quick, about that MTV show, is Matt coming back?
No.
Okay.
I asked, at first, yes, and Matt, for those who don't know, was a young man out of Chicago who washed out of our camp during that show. He was actually the featured guy, and of course, it was good for Rory Fox because they picked him up as a feature, and now I'm reading things like cult hero Rory Rapid Delivery with Fox. And of course, Roy loves that. And the amazing thing is, everybody knows his name. I'm amazed. I talked to guys. I met Spike Dudley for the first time a while back, and Spike immediately started the conversation about the MTV special. So if you haven't seen, I think they still run it occasionally.
Yeah. Well, last year I told a story too about with Rory. Is Willie and I at Pillman, we were driving around with Hugh Morris and Disco Inferno, and they were looking at the program for the first time and saw Rory's name. And they started, getting really excited, what we call marking out, going, the paper boy's here, the paper boy's here. So, everybody knows who Rory Fox is through that special. And a couple of weeks ago, I know he got a tryout with the World Wrestling Federation. So hopefully, not only him, but other guys you've been training recently, like Ray Steele, like Matt Stryker. They've been getting looked at from the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, Race is really high on their list. He's had about 6-7 matches with him, some dark, some on jacked or metal, and they're real high on him. Race, if the fans haven't seen, he's like 6'1", 250, very agile for his size, very intense, and a very sound performer. And in fact, amazingly enough, some of the guys that have wrestled him are already amazed that he doesn't already have a contract. He honestly is that good. And surprisingly enough, probably in terms of my students over the past 6.5 years or so, is the quickest turnaround time. Our basic program is 6 months. seldom does anybody get out of here actually out in front of a paying crowd in 6 months or less. Race was the only one that's ever done that. And, he's a guy that's, he's going to end up with a contract with WWF, I'm sure. It's just a matter of when, because they keep putting him to the test, and he's very consistent. He's like a machine. He's very, very, very good technically, and has a great personality.
We're talking with Les Thatcher on the Wrestling Guys on AM 910 WPFB. Les, we have a question for you. You got time?
Sure.
Okay, let's talk to Casey. Casey, welcome to the Wrestling Guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Casey.
Yeah, I got a question for you. My dad was down there at the showcase I go every Tuesday down there, and he was wanting to know if you remember a guy that used to wrestle for you named Scuffin' Hillbilly, or he went by Scuffin' Hillbilly and the Intern, and he was wanting to, his real name's Billy Garrett.
Billy Garrett, sure. I remember Billy well. He also, he wrestled as one of the medics under the mask. Yes, I certainly do know Billy. Haven't seen him in a number of years. But yes, I remember him well and wrestled him in both incarnations as a hillbilly and as one of the medics.
Well, Les, we've got to get to a break again. For people that want information about the Pillman, PillmanShow.com, the Curtis Fantasy Camps, CurtisCamp.net, or, of course, HWAOnline.com if you're on the Internet. And the phone number again for you?
513-771-1650. You guys have covered all the bases.
Thank you very much, Les. Great to have you on. An honor to have you on for the first show.
Guys, I want to wish you continued success. You had a great show before, and, looking forward to you guys doing a lot of great things. And, of course, you guys are putting together a bus trip for the Pillman, too, right?
Yes, we are, and we're going to have more information on that in just a little bit.
All right, I thought I'd segue into that.
Very smooth, very smooth.
See, he was an announcer for so many years. He can
Well, I've done a little bit. I also sweep floors and...
Well, we may need you around here then if you're not busy about an hour or so.
All right, I got that covered too, my friend.
Les, take care of yourself, brother.
You guys have a good one. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Les.
Bye-bye.
Les Thatcher from the Main Event Pro Wrestling Camp, always one of our favorite people to talk to here on the Wrestling Guy.
And one thing everyone should know, too, the Pillman tickets are going, from what I've heard, very fast.
Yes, and there are a couple of matches, one in particular that we can't mention yet, that we're hoping gets put together, which would really be a historic match. And if it shakes out, I promise you this, one of two things, because I don't want to mention what it could be and then jinx it. If it doesn't happen, I will tell you what that match was going to be.
Wow.
So I'm not going to put anybody on the spot right now. But if that match does not happen, I promise you, I will tell the listeners and whoever what that match was going to be.
So I think definitely you want to get.
If it happens, it's going to be the co-main event.
You want to get your tickets for Pillman. They are going very fast, and also with your tickets for the HWA showcase on Tuesday nights. That MTV one, I almost guarantee there's going to be a line going out the door around the side. You're going to want to get there early. Doors open at 7 o'clock for those things. I can guarantee you by 6 o'clock on that day, there's definitely going to be a line. There's only a line generally around 6:45. But I'm telling you, on that one, you're going to definitely want to get down there early. That's June 26th.
Yes. A couple of other things. We talked a lot about the HWA tonight. If you want to get up to speed on all of the other local shows around the area from Outlaw Championship Wrestling and others, call the Wrestling Guys hotline. 937-285-0991. Check out the calendar of events. You'll get a rundown of everything associated with the HWA, OCW, and a whole bunch more.
That's right. We have it all right there for you.
We're going to go ahead and take a final break for the night, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the King of the Ring. The bracket is complete. We're going to spoil a couple things, but I think it's okay. You're listening to the Wrestling Guys
on 910 AM WPFB.
We're in your neighborhood, 910 WPFB. We're your hometown station with local news, area sports, and the best music of all time. You're listening to the Wrestling Guys on the station at the part of your life, AM 910 WPFB.
Welcome back, and we just got done talking about Les Thatcher. And again, if you want
we weren't talking. We were talking with him. Don't say we were talking about him.
During the break, we were talking about him.
I was not talking. Please do not do that.
You're going to have to run some grinders.
I am going to have to.
Hey, coming up in a couple of weeks, the King of the Ring pay-per-view, and always an important pay-per-view, because typically what happens with this is whoever wins the King of the Ring is one of those guys elevated up to the next level most of the time.
Yes, Kurt Angle.
It's worked in the past for Angle, Steve Austin, Triple H. Then you've had others like Billy Gunn and Mabel and a number of others who have not do so well.
King Mabel, I just can't see why that didn't take off.
The bracket is now complete. Now, a couple of the qualifying matches are going to happen on SmackDown tomorrow night. We're going to spoil this a little bit for you. Hopefully you don't mind.
That's right. Just hum, if you're listening to the show right now and you don't want to know what happens on SmackDown tomorrow, just hum really loud right now.
The complete bracket, and we're not sure exactly who's facing who, but the 8 men are Edge, Christian. That should be interesting because they are tag team. Gee, you think they're going to face each other?
Oh, not at all.
Rhino, Jeff Hardy, Kurt Angle, Perry Saturn, Big Show, and I know a lot of people are going to be excited about this. Tajiri is going to be in the King of the Ring. So you take a look at this, and right now,
we had heard that it was going to come down to Regal and Benoit.
Right.
At some point. You still think that Regal is going to kick Tajiri? This is what I'm thinking. Regal's going to kick Tajiri out of his spot. And he's going to take that spot. That's going to make Tajiri upset, and then Regal and Tajiri can start their feud.
Well, also you have the fact that Kurt Angle's really been pounding on Tajiri the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
So you can see where possibly Tajiri maybe will stay in King of the Ring and face Kurt Angle, and then they'll go ahead and get eliminated. Somehow Tajiri will get a screw job win over Kurt Angle.
Sure.
Right now they're playing up this idea that maybe Kurt Angle could become the first 2-time winner of the King of the Ring. You look at Edge and Christian, there's a lot of talk that Edge is getting ready for a major singles push. I don't know if he is ready for that.
No, I don't know if he's ready for it either, but they are very much teasing that those two are going to break up.
And again, you can almost put it on I would normally say never bet on professional wrestling. And there's people out there that do.
They do.
And why they do, I have no idea.
They do. We never followed up with that one story that we had the longest. Remember when they were betting on who exactly was going to be the heavyweight champion?
That's at the end of this year.
At the end of this year.
Yeah, the recap what Willie's talking about, there's a website, I think in London.
Yes.
And what they were doing is you place a bet, whoever was the world champion in the WWF on December 31st, 2001, and I'm not sure what the various odds were for people, but you would win,
whatever it was.
Whatever the money is. And for people to bet on that, because let's face it, if you're Vince McMahon, who controls everything in the World Wrestling Federation, I would look at this and say, you know what? I would take the guy that has the worst odds.
Yeah.
The guy that has like a 50 million to 1 odds.
Exactly.
And place all my money on him, and I'm going to make him the world champion.
I would recoup absolutely everything that the XFL lost.
Speaking of the XFL, and I think this is going to be our final XFL story ever, but the league MVP, Tommy Maddox, signed today with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Really?
Yes, he did.
Did not know that.
An MVP who threw twice as many interceptions as touchdowns is now your quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm a Bengals fan.
Pretty much an improvement for them. So anywh that was a little Pittsburgh shot there. I guess I shouldn't have done that, but anyway. A couple of other questions we had through our website and through the email. The website's not up yet, but the email address is thewrestlingguys@AOL.com. Had a couple questions about what's going on with Eddie Guerrero. And last week, Eddie Guerrero basically went into rehab for an addiction to painkillers. Now, Guerrero has had some problems with these in the past, and so he was sent home. He is in treatment right now. It's being paid for by the World Wrestling Federation, and hopefully he will be okay. Now, some people are raising an eyebrow because of the Brian Christopher situation. Brian Christopher, you maybe better know as Grandmaster Sexay, one half of the tag team Too Cool in the WWF. He was fired the week prior because he was caught with cocaine going into the Canadian border.
That he says wasn't his.
Yeah, of course not.
It was his friend's. He was holding it for a friend.
Exactly.
He knows better, but, he knew that they were going to, they actually were cleaning out a rental car, and his friend said, hey, let me put this in your bag.
In your CD case.
That's right. In your
CD carrying case.
Your CD carrying case. You know what? That happens to me all the time.
Anyway, the WWF has a policy that if you're caught trying to carry drugs over an international border, you're fired immediately because of the black eye it will give you, or give the company. And for those of you that don't know, Brian Christopher's dad is Jerry the King Lawler, who quit the World Wrestling Federation about 2 months ago after a disagreement where the World Wrestling Federation fired his wife, and he walked out of the company. So some people were speculating that, well, they have a grudge against Brian Lawler, Brian Christopher, and that's why they fired him.
I think it came down to prescription drugs versus illegal drugs.
Yes.
And that's it. Bottom line. What Brian Christopher had, even if it wasn't his, well, guess what? He knew that it was in his CD case, and therefore, he was doing something illegal at that point.
But you knew that was going to be the excuse. It wasn't mine.
Yeah.
It wasn't mine. I don't know how it got there. Don't blame me.
I just like how many times the story has changed. I mean, first of all, it was, it was back pills. Do you remember that? First of all, it was back pills. And then it was, it was nothing. There was back pills. And then finally, it winds up being cocaine.
The one thing I hope, and I haven't heard if they did this or not, but the World Wrestling Federation typically had a policy, if any of their workers had a drug problem, and even if they were fired, like Davey Boy Smith was, even after they were fired, they would pay for their rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And I hope they made that offer to Brian Christopher.
I don't know if they did.
I don't know if they did or not, but it just seems like Brian Christopher obviously needs some kind of help. I don't care if the drugs were his or not. He obviously needs a slap across the head if he's carrying his friends' drugs for him.
I agree with you 100%.
So hopefully I don't think they made that offer, but I really don't know. So we shall see. Don't forget, you can get up to date 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with the Wrestling Guys hotline, 937-285-0991. And when you call tomorrow, we will have a complete rundown of what is going to happen on SmackDown before it happens.
That's right. So you can place bets with really stupid people. Well, a lot of people don't know. They tape it on Tuesday.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that. So you go, hey, you know what? I am a psychic. Get somebody. You know what? Get somebody. This is the mission. Okay, get somebody that is not necessarily a wrestling fan. All right, and say, hey, you know what? I really want you to watch wrestling. And I'm going to say, and say, this is how smart I am. All right, I can predict who's going to win this match. And use it as like a little bar bet.
You think it'll work?
I think it'll work.
You could probably make somebody doing that.
I would like to know.
Good.
People can leave it on the hotline if it works or not. I want to hear stories.
There you go. Again, the number is 937-285-0991. One other thing is the Wrestling Guys. Last year we did this. We're going to do it again this year. We are offering the Wrestling Guys bus trip to Pillman on August the 9th. What this is we give you a seat, a very good seat at ringside.
A very good seat.
Which is a $30 value. Plus, we provide transportation from around the Dayton Mall to the Pillman and back. Plus, Charlie's is going to feed us, right?
Charlie's is feeding us.
Charlie's is feeding us. Your program will be sitting right there for you on the bus, and it's going to be a great time.
If you've ever had like O'Charlie's, like either the chicken tenders or like the rolls or any of that stuff, you're going to get it on the bus trip. That's worth the bus trip right there.
There you go.
You just take a bus trip and have that.
Ticket price is going to be $55 for this, and the tickets are going to go on sale on Saturday, June 30th. And for more information, you can call the Wrestling Guys hotline. There's that number again, 937-285-0991.
And to let everyone know too, after the cost of the bus.
Yes.
Absolutely. O'Charlie's is donating this stuff.
Yes.
Absolutely. Every single penny is going to the Brian Pillman Memorial Fund. So after the cost of the bus, absolutely, and that check will be handed right there.
We're going to be presenting the check at the Pillman. So,
good. Okay.
So every single dime. And if anybody wants to see the documentation afterwards, I'll provide it for you if you really want to see it. But so that's going to be coming up, and we're very excited about that. Again, quick recap of the news. Very slow news day today, but Mikey Whipwreck is going to retire. China's recovering from ear surgery. Rikishi back in about 6 weeks, I guess, from the shoulder injury. And really, again,
Scotty Too Hotty should be about ready to come back.
Scotty Too Hotty, and what it looks like, I've heard some talk about Scotty Too Hotty and Cakewick maybe forming a tag team. So. That is the seventh sign of the apocalypse. So,
you know what? There's two things you don't want. You don't want to be in a tag team with K-Quick, and you don't want to match with the Big Show. You kind of know at that point. You kind of know. I think that maybe you've done something wrong. I'm serious. Don't they always punish people with putting them against the Big Show?
I think so.
Now, granted, they have a tendency to win nowadays.
Yes,
but I think that's what happens.
We want to apologize. I know we had some difficulties with the phones tonight, and. Again, these are growing pains for us. This is our first show. We're getting the kinks out. Next week, a fine oiled machine. Guaranteed.
I'm going to bring some WD-40.
You may want to do that. Some duct tape or whatever else you can bring. Bubble gum and duct tape is how we put things together around here sometimes. So anyway, I want to thank again the folks here at AM 910 WPFB.
Most definitely.
I have been associated with the station for about 10 years off and on. I shouldn't say most, because that's a little presumptuous, but some people that listen to the station know I do some high school and football and basketball coverage, so very excited to be here with a team of friends, and so we're very excited about continuing this and
most importantly, thank you for listening.
Yes.
And coming over, making that jump with us into the foray of AM radio.
There you go. For Willie F., I'm Shawn Stidham. Thanks for listening. We are the Wrestling Guys. And Eric, the bodyguard's here. He wants some kind of mention. So
right.
Anyway, there you go.
There you go.
Anyway.
On 910 AM, WPFB.
Life is filled with inconveniences that demand